It's the old Doctor Who show, episode number 85, Web of Fear.
Go forward in all your beliefs and prove to me that I am not mistaken in mine. You couldn't control my mind before, and you certainly can't control it now.
Would you like a jelly, baby?
The TARDIS, when working properly, is capable of many amazing things.
Reverse the polarity of the neutron flows, and the TARDIS will be free of the force field.
But the TARDIS is more than a machine. It's like a person, you see.
The resulting reaction is Friday. Are you ready?
Welcome back to the old Doctor Who show, your tri-weekly classic Doctor Who review podcast. We are back after a 3-week break. My name is Eric.
And I'm Dan.
And Dan, you are in Vermont.
I'm in Vermont, and I'm also in your ear holes. So we're here to talk about the Web of Fear today.
Yeah, we are.
Eric.
That's all we're talking
we're
about,
recording...
right? We don't have anything else. So happy Halloween has passed. I hope you
actually,
all got what you needed, candy-wise.
That's probably the biggest holiday in the Grissom household.
It's we go all in on that Halloween thing.
Yeah.
It stunk, too, because there was a lot of wind this year where I'm at, and so we have these animatronics that move and clowns that scream and some kind of a nightmare harvester thing, and they all blew over because of the wind. So it was like as soon as Halloween started, it was just mangled pieces of metal in a sadness pile. So they didn't even get a chance to scare the kids. Man,
Aww.
Yeah, it was kind of sad.
It's the thought that counts,
But
though.
it's fine. It was a good Halloween all around. I hope all of our listeners had a good time as well. Do we have anything, or should we just jump into the
I think we should jump in.
web? Should we get caught up in the Web of Fear? Dan?
That's the one. Do it.
Okay. All right, let's hit that button.
Where's the button?
It's like a spider's web, isn't it?
Yes. And we're the flies, all right, but where is the spider?
Better give the others a hand, Corporal.
Sir.
Doctor, been thinking about what you were saying earlier.
Mm-hmm.
About someone here in HQ being responsible for all this. Could it have been Travers?
Oh, I doubt it.
Well, after all, he has disappeared.
Yes. So has Chorley. I'd say he was a much more likely suspect.
True.
On the other hand, of course, whoever is in league with the intelligence could still be amongst us here.
It's a fact of which I am uncomfortably aware. But tell me, Doctor, this intelligence, exactly what is it?
Well, I wish I could give you a precise answer. Perhaps the best way to describe it is a sort of formless, shapeless thing, floating about in space like a cloud of mist, only with a mind and will.
What's it after? What's it want?
I wish I knew. The only thing I know for sure is that it brought me here.
This is Doctor Who. Yes, it's Doctor Who in Why Have I Done This? Why am I still doing this 4 years later? No, this is Doctor Who Web of Fear, Dan. That's what it is. This is the almost complete 5th story of the 5th season. A mystery I was not aware of. I did not expect all of the parts not to be in attendance. It was written
Surprise!
It was written by Melvin Heisman. I hope my autocorrect didn't change the person's name. I'm assuming it's Melvin Heisman and Henry Lincoln. And it was directed by Douglas Camfield of the Camptown Campfields. We've seen Douglas before in other Doctor Who stories. So what happened, Dan, in this story called Web of Fear? Well, after the Doctor's doppelganger flew out the open door of the TARDIS in a very exciting scene that ended Enemy of the World, that story that took place immediately prior to this one, Jamie managed to close the door, thank God, and save them all. But you know what, Dan? That respite is short-lived. Because, friend, they got caught in some kind of space webbing. Space spider webs that for some reason are also fungus, but look like webs. It's all fine. They end up landing in the London Underground where army men, a father-daughter science team, and a trash journalist are doing their best to control the spread of this web-like fungus and the lumbering Yetis who love them. Who's behind this dark development, Dan? Only the Doctor can find out. How did you fare with this Patrick Troughton epic adventure?
Boy, I think you summed it up beautifully. Well, until you and I discuss it and you convince me otherwise, I'm pretty sure I liked it a lot. There's something about I enjoy Troughton so much, and I am really enjoying the fact that we get to come back and see some more stories with Jamie. And this is only the second story we've got to do with Victoria in it, I believe, including the previous one you had just mentioned.
I think you keep forgetting that because we did the Tomb of the Cybermen where she's in it.
Oh, and she was in that.
And then we did the one we just did before the.
You're right. That was so long ago. Even though you just corrected me about this.
It's fine because I corrected you the last time when we did the other one.
And I look forward to you correcting me again. So that'll
But
be
honestly,
fun. Anyway,
is Victoria actually even in this story? Doesn't matter. I mean, she's not. Well, you go.
She
on.
made tea. She had to make tea, so she had a lot to do in this story. But I like their chemistry. Overall, yeah, I like this story a lot. I enjoyed it throughout, and we can go through point by point why that is. But in general, the setting was fun. There's a continuation of a story that we didn't actually get to see. So the Great Intelligence, we didn't see this first story that.
Yeah, the abominable snowman or whatever, which
that's right.
They referenced several times.
Yeah, so we missed that. We missed Professor Travers was in that one in the Tibetan episode. But it's nice that we get to carry that forward and see, the reaction of a recurring character to the Doctor 40 years later. The setting, like I said, in the underground, the multiple types of enemies. There's the Yeti, there's the fungus, there's the unknown collaborator in their midst. So the switching of sides and suspicions throughout is pretty fun. We got to see the Brigadier for the first time, and he is the most Brigadier he's ever been. So that's a lot of fun. Yeah, I enjoyed it the whole way through. Even though there was a missing third episode that was partially reconstructed. So we had the audio and some stills, basically screen grabs, but that was fine. Yeah, overall it was a lot of fun, I thought. Eric, what did you think of this story?
I liked it a lot. I also agree with you. I thought it was good. I think coming off of the Edge of Destruction, the previous story that we did, the Hartnell one, I like Troughton so much more than I like Hartnell. He's just a really good Doctor, and I like Jamie and Troughton a lot. I think their combo works really well. I don't really like Victoria. I feel like she's just there. Like, her character, she seems like a nice person. I don't mean to speak ill of her, but the character, there's nothing. There's, like, literally nothing there. She just gets caught or screams or whatever, but we've certainly seen that.
Yeah.
It works really well, I think, as a black and white horror. Like, it's very much like an old 50s monster movie. Like, you have, like, we're in, what is it? You're pointing.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in because our delay is a little bit hard here, but I just wanted to agree 1,000%. I have a note saying that for whatever reason, the black and white of this story works to its advantage. Obviously, they didn't have any choice in the matter, but for us coming through and seeing all Doctor Who through all of space and time and coming back again and seeing the black and white for this works particularly well for the mood and for the set design, for the creature design, all of it. The black and white really plays into it super well. I just wanted to say that. I agree with you. Keep going.
Like the location shooting and the fact that we're in the underground and it's very confined and claustrophobic, and then they have this whole sort of who's the traitor kind of thing, where you have all these characters and everyone's trying to figure out who's working with the Great Intelligence. And I think the Great Intelligence is kind of an interesting concept character. We see that later on, even in New Who. That's a villain or whatever, but I like the idea of that. There's stuff I don't like about this story. One, it's too long. There's like parts that are super hard to watch, like when they're above ground and there's like this long fighting scene with like shooting that just drags on for way too long, and the fact that like that third episode was missing, it was like, that's just someone's telling you only needed 5. I think maybe even 4 would have been enough than the 6.
Yeah.
And there are sometimes too many characters where you're like, who is that guy? Like, what is that? Oh, that's somebody. I guess they're only around to do this, or like, I thought the journalist character, which was what was his name? I don't remember. Charlie, I think, or Chorley or something.
Chorley. It was
He
Chorley.
was cool,
Yep.
but then nothing really happened with him. There's like great lines with him, like he's listening to like their phone conversation. They're like talking to someone. You hear someone dying. You hear screaming, and he's like, that's great stuff, or whatever. So he's like this
Right.
terrible person, and he gets scolded by Travers' daughter, who's also Travers. He gets scolded by Travers in a thing, in a scene that's very nice, but nothing happens with him. He's trying to get into the TARDIS at one point, and they go to get him, and the TARDIS is covered in webs, and later on you see him just wandering in the underground. There's nothing like...
Right. I mean,
a lot of these characters, they don't really go anywhere. They're just sort of there.
He seemed to be there
for the reveal.
He was
at
there
the end.
primarily for the misdirect of like who's actually working with the intelligence, because
Right,
he
yeah,
was
and
the
I think
strongest suspect the longest time, and that's all he was there for. But I mean, that could have just as easily been some other soldier, though that would have tipped it maybe, because it ends up being one of the other soldiers. So I mean, I guess he was fine. I get maybe there was more social commentary there that we're not seeing
so there's
50 years later. Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe there's just more characters, so there's more people to be like, is that the person that did it, or is, it's just so it wouldn't be so easy to guess. I thought the opening was a little racy, Dan. I mean, you have like the Victoria, like they're all doing the thing from the last episode, and the door's open, but it's like Victoria's on the ground and her dress is hiked up, and the doctor's behind her, like moaning and groping at her. She gets groped a lot in this. Every character at one point.
Doesn't Jamie like? Yeah,
all do.
gropes her as he's
So
on
does
his way out the door.
So does Old Man Travers. Well, and here's the thing: Old Man Travers is her dad. Like, so it's not like a weird thing. But there is a scene where Old Man Travers has his arm around Victoria, and he's just constantly like touching her shoulder. But in real life, I don't know if you were aware, that actor and Victoria, that's the father and a daughter.
Oh no, I didn't do
that's
any
her dad.
research. Why would I? That's great.
But everybody's doing it, so that scene was a little much, I think. And then Jamie joins in, and then they're doing like this Victoria sandwich at one point with like the doctor. I think the doctor's in the middle of that. I think it's Victoria, the doctor, and then Jamie, and everyone's having fun because it's the TARDIS, and who gives a damn. I thought the music. I would have said the music was good had I not already seen The Enemy of the World, when it's the same musical piece that's in Enemy of the World is used throughout this. And it's like, I guess they only had access to one piece of music, which happens to be that music that's from The Shining that we talked about last time.
Yeah. I mean, you had really liked that. I think we said something when we reviewed that story that they later start getting better, like original music being made for the show. But yeah, I think they were just reusing what they had there for the
it was
cost.
fine. So it was like, okay, well, yeah, we just saw that. We just heard that.
Yeah. So, well, we do have a lot of characters. I mean, not all of them were fully developed as others were, but I think one that was, and that was particularly interesting, was Anne Travers, playing the professor's daughter.
She was awesome.
Who, in her own right, is a scientist. She was really interesting, especially from... There was a conversation in the first episode. One of the soldiers says to her, like, what's a girl like you doing a job like this? And she says, when I was a little girl, I thought I'd like to be a scientist, so I became a scientist. Just like that. And she's kind of a no BS. Like, of course, this is what I want to do. Very much of her time, ahead of her time. And she just wasn't taking anything from anyone. She was incredibly technically adept. She was able to keep up with the doctor when they're trying to reprogram the control sphere. The doctor compliments her on her work and her insight into how to make all this work. She's just an incredibly well-realized character, and she does all that while wearing a micro mini skirt. Mm-hmm. So, it's the 60s.
No,
guess
she
that
was-
happens.
she was
But so I
great.
really enjoyed her. She was really interesting. A lot of quips, a lot of facial expressions like eye rolls and that sort of thing that felt very contemporary. But yeah, so that was interesting. Some of the other ones obviously were not nearly as well developed. Like you said, the journalist Chorley was there just to kind of be a creep and then be that misdirect.
Yeah, but he
there
was.
the driver,
I liked
Evans,
him.
who was kind of interesting.
I liked him, and Evans,
Go
the
ahead.
driver. Now, I don't know a lot about the UK, but this feels racist. Is this a completely racist thing against Scottish people? Like, his character, I don't know if this is a thing, but it felt like, I was like, that's probably racist against Scottish people, right? I mean, the way that they portray him,
Maybe.
and he's a complete coward, and like he acts like a complete idiot too. So I'm just gonna say, I think I feel like something's going on here. So we have a lot of listeners, obviously, overseas. So was this racist? It feels like if you were to do a show in the States and you'd have like a Southern Cletus character, like on The Simpsons, the slack-jawed yokel,
Right.
like it feels like it's that. I don't know. You tell me.
I could see that. Although there was something, it kept sticking out to me. They kept making reference to calling people a Welsh imbecile. Oh, so wait, Evans is Welsh. He's not Scottish. He's Welsh, and he was
Okay,
calling.
well, then
it's
racist
the doctor
against the
calls
Welsh.
him. Yes, the doctor calls him a blithering Welsh imbecile. Which like it comes up a couple of times. Like it just that jumped out at me. So yeah, I don't think it would have been Scottish because we have Jamie and
Right.
Victoria.
You know they're Scottish people because they're wearing kilts. Yeah, that's fine.
Right. So you're racist for calling.
Yeah, I guess
Welsh
I am.
people
I'm a
Scottish.
racist for identifying it. Look at me. This whole thing turned on us.
Yeah.
Took
you down.
Let's talk a little bit about Travers. Travers Senior.
Okay.
So
yes,
are they American? Is that an American accent that Travers is doing?
It didn't strike me as being American.
Okay.
If it was, it wasn't
It's not
good. I don't know if he
English.
was intending it to be.
Did they say something about this? I don't know. I have in my notes, like, what accent is he doing? Like, what is that supposed to be, Travers? But in the opening, when we first see Travers, right?
I think they say in the beginning that Anne had been in America and she came back. But I don't
But his
think
accent doesn't
either of
sound
them
English
are
either.
supposed to be American. No, I don't think it's their... I think
I
the
don't know
accent
what
is just...
It's just some...
It didn't strike me as being anything interesting there, but in terms of where it's supposed to be from. But they do make reference to Anne having gone to
He's in the
America.
beginning. We see him, and I think the first time you see him, he's looking at a Yeti that they have. Right? They have like a Yeti that they find in. Where did they find it? The Himalayas or somewhere. They got the case, and it's not active. And there's another guy, and they're bickering back and forth. And for a second, it almost looks like he is dressed up like Orson Welles, and the other guy is like dressed up like Martin Scorsese, and they're arguing over whether or not a Marvel movie is a movie. So like, there's that scene, but like, who is the other guy? Because he disappears, right? Like, you don't see him anymore. The guy he's arguing with. It's only like in the first episode. I don't know if he's like where this guy's from, right? Are they in a museum or something? I can't even remember, but I remember, then Travers eventually fixes the phantasm ball that at one point I was just hoping was going to drill into someone's head and activates the Yeti, and the Yeti leaves. But I don't think we see that other guy that he was arguing with again. Do we?
Right. No, you're right. I'm sorry. It takes place in a museum in the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
And
He's
I
like the curator of the
forgot
museum
about
or
that.
whatever.
That's right. Over the course of this entire story, we spend almost the entire story either in the TARDIS in the very first scene or in the underground in various locations, and I completely forgot we were anywhere else in this story at all. So yeah, you're right. That does happen, and that's why we don't actually end up seeing him later. But there's Julia Silverstein that he is arguing with in the beginning. So yeah, you're right. But then we don't see them again because they then go to the underground to help out with the webs and the fears.
Right, where most of the 6-part thing takes place. But so, and for people that have watched Doctor Who before, who watched
the three
it,
of you that have seen it.
No, right. So people who didn't just all of a sudden just get thrown out of a van and they're like, where up the hell happened? They would have known this character, right? Although it's a 40-year difference, so I'm assuming it's the same actor that played Travers in whenever the Abominable Snowman episode was. So he's got all the beard and stuff, so maybe it was him without the beard in that storyline. I didn't look it up either. But it's that obviously they know him, but do you know if it's the same actor, or was it just someone else playing Travers? Because it's a 40-year, it's a pretty big time difference.
Yeah, it is the same actor. It is Jack Watling is doing it, both in this story. Look, making sure I'm checking this right. Professor Travers. Yes, Jack Watling did it both in this story and in The Abominable Snowman.
So how old is he supposed to be? I mean, he's the actor is the father of Victoria. So he's probably in his 40s, right, as an actor? Is he supposed to be playing an 80-year-old in this story?
Yeah, I do think that he's supposed to be significantly old because he makes reference to
he's got some
his
like
hands
old
not
manny thing, old manny makeup stuff working. But it doesn't seem that old. He's a little bit over the top, too, in the beginning. He's a little bit like
I
chewing that scenery a bit.
Which is funny to say that because, and I agree, I think he was a little bit over the top in the beginning, but that's the most normal his character is through the rest of the story. Later on, he gets taken over by the intelligence,
he gets possessed.
And he's not as he's much more subtle in his characterization there than he is in the beginning of this. But yeah, so I liked the idea that we see, even though we didn't get to see the Abominable Snowman yet, that this character comes back again and has that moment. For him, it's been 40 years since he's seen the three of them, the Dr. Jamie and Victoria. But for those three, presumably, it's only been maybe a matter of months. Right. Who knows? I mean, yeah, right, because it was episode 38 that they saw each other previously. So it is fun because I don't know in this far into the show if we've really seen that before. This might be I think it's the first time we've seen that chronologically in the story, that you get to revisit a character from a previous story who's
much older.
Yeah, exactly. Has that disconnect in time in the timelines.
Yeah, I can't remember if we have. We may have. It's not coming to me.
Yeah,
I thought so the doctor, while this is going on, so while this guy's reactivating the Phantasm Ball, and the Yeti's taking off, and all the business is happening in the underground, the doctor, meanwhile, and his crew are trapped in the fungus, and then they decide that, hey, we're going to land on Earth, right? So they land on Earth, and then they end up in the underground. And it takes the doctor...
They get trapped.
Well, I was going to say, it takes the doctor way too long to figure out where they are, though, don't you think? Like, they're looking around at what's clearly the London Underground, complete with sign that says Underground. And they're still looking, and then the doctor's like, "Oh, you know what? It's a subway, right?" I felt like the time it took for the doctor to come to that conclusion, having been on Earth for so many stories previous, he should have immediately known what it was.
Yeah, that didn't strike me that it took him very long. What I did appreciate though was the line that they had. So, like you said, they were kind of trapped in space, and they kind of do a last-ditch maneuver to get out of the web and land wherever they can, and they materialize and they get out and figure out where they are. And the doctor says, "Funny, isn't it, how we keep landing on your Earth?" I just thought it was a really nice line to be like, yeah, we just keep, this is what we can afford to do, is keep using your Earth over and over again. And it's actually, I guess, if my math is right, it's 10 years into it's in the 70s. This would be the mid-70s or so.
This is the Abominable Snow in the story.
Yeah, Abominable Snowman is 1935, and Travers says it's been 40 years, so it'd be 75, assuming he was roughly accurate. So it's about 10 years into the future from when the story was recorded. Not that it plays any role in the story at all. You don't really. There's no technology is different or anything like that. It just I thought it was interesting. At least they set it a little bit further into the future than the audience is.
Right. Yeah. I think I didn't say it in the beginning, but it's 1968 that this came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not
a
that
few
much
years
for. So that would have been the 60s. You said 70s. So
Yeah, I mean, it would have been somewhere around
it's
there,
like
35, 40 years later.
I'm trying to do the math in my head. It's the 30s that the Abominable Snowman took place?
It was 1935.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
not
in
a
any
big
case.
point. It was just interesting that happened.
And then, after all that happens, we get to episode 3, right? I mean, I think some other things happened, but I don't know about you. Did not know 3 was missing.
I
had
knew
been
that
drinking,
there was...
and I
Oh,
was
no.
like, oh my God, I'm blacking out. Because did it start like normal and then start pausing? I was like, is the app dying? Like it took like, all of 30 seconds, but it was like, oh, here goes the brain. I smell a toast. And it's finally over.
Yeah, it does.
This is how I'm going out.
Well, I think that's fitting. It's a little early for a murder-suicide, but I'll take it. Yeah, no, it does start off because it shows like the 1 minute of the
previous thing.
previous
Whatever.
episode and leads into it, and then it starts getting all choppy. I had read that this one had been missing, but I didn't know that it wasn't entirely reconstructed. There's so many of these stories where they'll find a random tape in a TV station in Africa or something like that and be able to restore these. I had
that's
just
where this
assumed
came
because
from,
they were all
Nigeria.
on. Yeah, I had assumed because they were all on BritBox, the ones that are missing actually denote that in the title that they're missing. I had thought that they were all found again until we saw that this was a reconstruction. But yeah, that was I thought it was fine.
I hated it, and I hope we never do another story that has, because at a point
I don't prefer it.
Yeah, I couldn't even follow most of episode 3. So if there's probably a big part that happened in episode 3, then I'm sure that I missed. But sticking with like the missing things, like for a little history, up until October of 2013, all 5 parts were missing. I think they had the first part, and 2 through 6 were missing. Then I read something interesting. So they show up in Nigeria, and supposedly all of them show up in Nigeria, including episode number 3. And then somehow between the announcement of the discovery and the delivery back to the BBC, 3 goes missing. Now, this seems likely that they just they thought they had 3 and they didn't. Then someone's stealing 3. But it's weird because it also is the Brigadier, he's only a colonel at this point. But it's his first appearance, and that's the one that's missing is kind of a bummer.
I think it's a QAnon conspiracy. So
possible.
We'll just hit the message boards and we'll figure it out. Speaking of missing things, I think another thing that's kind of interesting about this is episode 2 is entirely without the Doctor.
Yeah.
He's not there the entire time.
Or
which is yeah, he actually just took some time off. Much needed time off. This guy just works. But everyone splits up as they're going their different directions and try to solve what's going on here. But we just lose the Doctor for an entire story, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of entire episode.
The one part of that I didn't like, though, is he meets the Brigadier off screen. So he's gone for episode 2, and then episode 3, unless it's just I didn't see it. But I'm pretty sure, you see, when the Doctor and the I keep calling him the Brigadier. I'm gonna keep calling him the Brigadier. He's a colonel.
It's the Brig. It's fine.
He's not a Brigadier yet, but he comes in. I think he's like, oh, I ran into this guy, and all of a sudden, he's in charge of the army thing.
Yeah.
But it's so that wasn't, we don't even see how they met or anything. It's just, they just come in and he's introducing a character that he met that nobody saw. I thought that was just a little strange that they didn't.
Yeah, I don't know that
Had
we
them meet off
visually
screen.
missed anything really. I think you're right. It was just
No, I just mean
all
as far as
done
the
off
story,
camera.
why is that he becomes
Right.
such a big part of the next 4 episodes? It was weird for them to meet off screen. But again, he was on vacation,
Right.
so he didn't. I guess he was like, "You're getting what you're getting."
I kind of like it in that you have both Leftwich Stewart and the driver, Evans, are introduced around the same time. Evans is kind of singing a song through the tunnels, but they presumably came together because Evans was driving him. But no one seems to really remember Evans. Whenever Evans and Stewart meet up again, and Evans says, "I was your driver," and Stewart's like, sure. It's kind of nice because it plays into that. I mean, there was a time there where I thought that Evans was the one that was working with the the Great Intelligence. So I think that it kind of works with that paranoia that they're trying to build around this, claustrophobic, getting caught in by all sides by the by the fungus, and I thought it worked pretty well. That you don't necessarily see how they all kind of came together, but
I kind of knew it was
just
Arnold
lends
the whole
itself
time.
to.
I don't mean to brag, but it seemed like it was.
I mean,
Arnold.
you're significantly smarter than me, so that's fine. Yeah.
So yeah, the Evans thing speaks, sticking with him. I did like the whole driver aspect, that every time he was given a gun or told what to do, he was like, motioning with his hands, like, I'm just the driver, like, I don't know what to do. But so then we jump into episode 4, right? So episode 3, the slideshow experience. Episode 4 was the one I mentioned, which I didn't like, which was the long,
there's some
gunfights.
important things that do happen in episode 3, though.
What happens?
Well, so this is when the journalist is trying to find a way out, and they think that he's gotten to the TARDIS, or he's going to get to the TARDIS before they can get there. So this is what really sets up the journalist as being the main suspect.
Yeah, because Victoria, I believe, tells him they're talking, and then he uses that to try to get away, and she gets yelled at for
she gets yelled at, which I had as a note. Yeah, the Doctor really gets mad at her for talking about the TARDIS. And then finally, Jamie comes back, and this is the first story since episode 1 that all 3 of them, the 2 companions and the Doctor, are back together again. So we do have a full episode 2, not just the Doctor being separated, but everyone kind of going their separate directions, and we follow different characters around, which is kind of cool. We don't for a story that takes place all in a confined space, being the London Underground. It's still happening in a large confined space. They're still getting closed in on all sides, and there is that threat from the fungus and the Yeti, but it's not so much like a one-room bottle episode where everyone's kind of stuck together. They're trapped and yet split up.
Yeah,
so I thought that worked pretty well.
Which works well. But sticking with that, so then she gets yelled at, right? And then they go to find the journalist.
Yes.
And it goes nowhere, right? They get to the TARDIS, and the TARDIS is covered in webs, and they don't find him. And that's it. That's where it ends. So it was all that for what? What was the point of all of that?
Episode 4 is the one that has a lot of the fighting sequences.
Where the Brigadier abandons all of his men, too. Like, he's, up there with the guy, right? And they're,
they all died.
Top, and then he gets pulled down, and the Brigadier just splits. He doesn't even try to intervene or to shoot at the Yeti or draw him. He's just that guy's gone. That man's gone.
Which is kind of crazy. The thing that bothered me about all that, yes, it does go on for quite a while, but they say in a previous episode that the Yeti are invulnerable to the bullets unless you get them right between the eyes. And yet, when we have all of the military fighting the Yeti, they're just blindly shooting at them in the abdomen. I think one shot goes and shoots a Yeti in the eye. So besides the grenades blowing them up or the rocket launcher, which the guy that was aiming that rocket launcher is horrible. He missed a Yeti from 10 feet away. Real bad. But other than that, they just kept... The brig should run because he just kept trying to shoot the Yeti in the stomach with a pistol. That wasn't going to do anything. But I thought, given that there was all of that maybe excessive amount of battle sequences, especially since they really came to nothing, it was a pretty effective zombie movie sort of setup. With the Yeti kind of lumbering around and everyone trying to hide and take cover and hiding. It did feel like recreation of a zombie movie, and I think it was pretty
cool.
effective.
And it was
maybe it just went on too long.
Yeah, everybody gets killed, and the Brigadier's literally the last person left, so it is a survival horror kind of vibe going. And the way that the director shot it, with some of the low angle shots of the tight walls, and then the Yetis coming at you and everything was well.
I agree with that. There were a lot of the cinematography and camera work in this, even some of the editing, and just dissolves from one angle to another that we don't typically see in this era, and I thought worked particularly well. So there was a lot going for it in this.
Yeah, I don't really understand the relationship between the worm and the spice. No, between the Yeti and the... I clearly understand the relationship between the worm and the spice.
The worm is the spice. The spice is the worm.
Between the Yeti and the webbing. right? So the fungus is
let's do it.
Is constantly growing, and it breaks through the walls at one point. I think in episode 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah.
Of where the one, I think it's Evans is there, and I don't remember who he's with, but they I think it's Evans, and then that's when Arnold comes back, and the whole wall gets and the webbing is spreading, but is the Great Intelligence controlling the fungus? Because the Great Intelligence is controlling the Yeti, right, via these phantasm balls. But how does clearly, I guess the Great Intelligence is controlling the fungus because he traps the TARDIS there, and that's his part of his whole plan is to drain the Doctor. So yes, but to what end is any of the webbing? Is it just supposed to kill people? And he already has the Yeti. He also, I don't know. I didn't quite get the connection between the two of them.
Yeah, I wanted to talk through this too because I didn't quite understand how they all related. So there's basically 3 bad guys. There's the Great Intelligence that controls the other 2, but there's the Great Intelligence, there's the Yeti, and then there's the fungus. And the Yeti they have those clear guns that shoot this fog that turns into webbing, I guess, which is also the fungus. I don't know.
That's how they disable the bombs, right, at one point.
The bomb in the first story,
tunnels.
That's right. They do that a couple of times. They either web up people and kill them, or they web up the explosives, or the there's a crate of ammunition that they web up, and then when it explodes, it contains it. So it looked the same. Is that also? Are they fungus guns?
Maybe,
is that what it's doing?
But it seems like the fungus exists without
separately.
the Yeti too, right? Like you don't need the Yeti aren't rushing through when the walls come down.
Right.
I don't know. But another question too is in the Abominable Snowman episode, was the fungus in that, or is the fungus unique to Web of Fear? And the idols, there's the tiki idols from Brady Bunch that make an appearance in this that are trackers. Would the audience know those from the previous story? Like you would see, I know exactly what those are. Because they sort of get thrown in, and people are just putting them in each other's pockets without anyone knowing. Like the Brigadier is walking around with the tiki idol in his pocket. And the Doctor's like, oh, you idiot, you got it. Now they're going to come here. But how do those are... the Yetis are just these dumb casings that are being controlled by the silver balls that the Great Supreme Intelligence. So is he? It's an entity that doesn't exist. So is it seeing where these idols are and then telling the Yetis to go there, or are the Yetis themselves attracted to the idol?
Right. I mean, I don't know necessarily how it works. It feels like they are tracking homing devices. Like I don't know that the Great Intelligence is steering them towards them, or I think they kind of work on their own, and the Yeti are attracted to them. From what I'm reading here, Victoria recognized the model Yeti that Anne showed her since she saw it in Tibet, is what they say. So, having not seen that story, it seems like that must have figured into how the Abominable Snowman worked. The story worked, that is, with the Yeti, the control spheres, etc. So for us, I mean, I wonder, since we haven't seen that story, I wonder if we had... how would this story feel different to us? Would it feel like, we've already seen all this, it's kind of a retread. Why are we seeing the same stuff again with the Yeti and all of the things that go along with that, and even, Great Intelligence, all of that? Or because we didn't, or would it actually provide more context and make this story feel richer because we're kind of continuing the same? But to me, it feels like the former, that it'd be a lot of retread. So I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of glad that we didn't see that, other than not getting to see how all this was set up initially. I think we get the gist of it through their retelling of it.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it doesn't matter whether you see it.
No.
But, the 20-minute time frame, did it feel weird to you that the Doctor is given 20 minutes to comply with the Great Intelligence, and yet that 20 minutes lasts like 3 episodes of the show? That is 60 minutes. So it's like they keep talking about this 20 minutes. So at some point the Great Intelligence, and I think this is when the Great Intelligence is talking to them through Travers Sr., right? And he gives the Doctor, he basically, what is the deal, right? The Doctor's got to surrender himself
so that he can be mind drained.
Otherwise he's going to use Victoria and Jamie, but he's got 20 minutes to make the decision, right? Or there's like a 20-minute window, and it just keeps going forever, right? And they're
it was
at that point they figure out how to do a voice activated Alexa thing for.
I had the same note
for the Phantasm balls, or just control the Phantasm balls. That scene also goes on, like you watch them build it and then drive it and go back and forward, and like it takes a long time. But yeah, I just thought it was weird that 20 minutes is like it's like not even real time. It's slower than real time.
Yeah,
this 20 minutes thing.
Well, so when they say the 20 minutes, it's just very, very much in the beginning of that episode. And I was like, 20 minutes, that's the length of the episode. They're just doing it to try to, lead us to the end for the next cliffhanger. But you're right. No, it just extends over the next story.
It just keeps going. About the next episode.
But what I liked, though, is maybe it was a little bit long with Ann Travers and the doctor, working on... It's an open mic. It's not his fault.
It's
okay,
fine. Yeah.
So... What was I saying? Oh, so maybe this scene with Ann Travers and the doctor was a little bit long, but like I said before, that does give Ann's character much more credence in the story. That she's the one that does all of it. She's the one that does puts all the things together.
She's really good. And
so they have a control box that they're constructing. This is a new thing. They have a control box that will control the spheres, but only from very, very, very close range.
Yeah, you got to get very close.
So they create the box that controls a sphere that they've modified this one sphere so that they can take that and swap it out in a Yeti and control one Yeti.
To do voice control. And that has a great range. The voice control range is perfect. The stop an enemy one is up close.
Yes.
Weird. But with speaking with her, one thing I did really like about her, too, at one point... They're going out to find the Yeti to pop this Phantasm ball into.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, stay here. And she's like, no. And he's like, yeah, it's dangerous. He's like, just shut up. And then they just go. Like, he just sort of, she's not putting up with any nonsense.
Yeah.
She was great. I would, like, her. She would have been a good companion, I think, going forward. I would have liked to have seen her and the Doctor in more adventures.
Yeah, maybe replacing Victoria, I would guess. But, yeah.
Yeah, poor Victoria.
Poor Victoria. So little to do. So I guess we find out the whole plot is that the Great Intelligence lured the Doctor, kind of trapped him and brought him to Earth so that he could then take over his mind. So we don't know this, but the Doctor, has his hand, gets the helmet that's going to do the brain suck on him. But
it's like a Superman 2 scenario. Yeah, where he's going to be safe in here, and then outside they're going to get drained.
They're going to get screwed. He flips it, but then ends up getting saved. So otherwise, the Doctor would have drained the Great Intelligence into his own brain.
That scene is funny too, because Jamie is just yelling "caw, caw," like and getting the Yetis to fight the Yetis, and he's just yelling at them, "You idiots! Stop!" And they pay no attention to him, and they just break his little pyramid of destruction. And he's so, he's like having like a little temper tantrum, Troughton. He's like, you know.
And it's so not obvious why. Like, we don't know exactly. We saw that he was fiddling with the helmet, but we didn't really know what his plan was. But it was kind of cool. They had this whole reverso that didn't work out.
Right, and how frustrated he gets because he can't just say, I'm going to drain the Great Intelligence. Now, while that all is happening, the Great Intelligence just is sort of hanging out. I mean, he's not doing anything but having his little minions get killed. And then once they break the pyramid, then he loses connection with everything on Earth. But I guess was the pyramid the thing that he was connecting to the webbing? Because the webbing is still kind of all over the place.
Right, so we missed that part in the Abominable Snowman, that the pyramid is somehow part of his control device over the Yeti.
I don't know, yeah.
So, because they tried, in the beginning, there's the smaller pyramid that they recognize, they blow that up. Then there's the huge pyramid that's going to be where the Doctor gets his brain drained. So, there's that. So, yeah, I guess there's all this fungus. It's weird, because this story either takes place at the time that it airs or slightly into the future, like I said. I think it's probably maybe a couple of years. But it's not as though they go back and clean everything up. Like, they didn't get rid of the fungus. Like, all of London got wiped out by fungus. And this is not a thing that gets... It's not like,
we're going to go back and very hard to get to work.
Yeah, it was weird. That was
No,
kind
but
of
that's
left
like
that way.
they always do that. Like that's like a Doctor Who thing. Like everything is just people are murdered. There's dead bodies everywhere, and then they just smile and get in the TARDIS and leave at the end of it.
Well, that's true. Sort of similar. There's the very first thing that happens in this story is, continuing on the story from, Salamander, the doppelganger, the Doctor gets blown out the TARDIS. And when they close the doors, there's no concern. Like, obviously he was a horrible villain that wanted to enslave humanity. But the guy's just like, the Doctor said he's floating through space and time. Sounds horrible. And it's just like, yep, all right, that happened. There's absolutely no compassion, which we would kind of see in later Doctors, that even though this was a bad person who needed to be dealt with, like murdering them in such a horrific way would probably weigh on them a little bit more than they did on this Doctor. It struck me from the very first scene, like, oh, this is a little different than we're used to.
All right, you know what? One thing we probably haven't really talked about, though, is the mystery part of who's working with the Great Intelligence. The Staff Sergeant Arnold ends up being the person.
Right.
But aside from, like, sort of opening a door and letting a Yeti in, like, what else does he do that's bad? I mean, it's weird because, like, he's in the base when the fungus breaks down the wall. But he's controlled by the Great Intelligence, but he's not really acting like he is. He's sort of helping out whoever he's with and saying, oh, get out of here, you can't go in this room. But the whole time he's an agent of the Great Intelligence. So it just felt a little off character
was
for
he,
him
I'm sorry,
to have been...
Was he always working with the Great Intelligence, or he dies? Arnold gets, well, we think he like gets webbed up and dies.
Well, and then you see him all beat up with the Travers Senior.
Right.
Travers Senior and Victoria get captured at one point. So Travers is possessed by the Great Intelligence. Then he leaves with all these Yeti, and then they capture Victoria, and then the Great Intelligence leaves Travers, because I guess the Great Intelligence could just enter and leave people at will.
Right, I guess.
And then all of a sudden the Travers is Travers again, Travers Senior, and he's with Victoria, and then all of a sudden, like, on the right side of the screen, you see like a beat up Arnold who survived that war fight. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, hey, go back and go tell others our story. And then he goes back. But I feel like at that point, he is the Great Intelligence.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
working with them. But like, it just was like, and I guess they couldn't have played their hand, because if he acted like it, you wouldn't have had it reveal. But it's like, what was the real gain of controlling him? Because he didn't really do anything. Like, I don't know.
Except like kind of being infiltrating there and was around everyone as they were trying to figure everything out, so he was able to listen in, I guess.
But he's like hanging out though. Like I'm saying, like the Doctor goes and leaves, and and the Doctor's like stay, and he's like okay. But if he was really the Great Intelligence trying to get the Doctor, wouldn't he be like following
go with him.
The Doctor or sabotaging something that the Doctor? I don't know.
That feels right.
It was like
I guess my question was like before Arnold is webbed up and murdered and then taken over by the Great Intelligence. The Great Intelligence was just free floating. Like, I don't know. He was just kind of there. I don't know how that works, and I guess it doesn't really matter. But that was just.
And if the Great Intelligence could just jump into anybody's body, why do they even? Why does he need or she need Yetis at all? Like, instead of, I guess because they're strong, but you may have more luck if you just took over people in a civilization than introduced these monsters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just take over the president or the whoever. Everything's fine.
It's fine. You're gonna.
I don't know. I guess I don't know how it works. Like I don't know how Travers got possessed.
Yeah.
Is it just I decide I'm going to possess someone, or did he get in contact, or does the Yeti do something, or you look in the Yeti's eyes and there's a flashing light, and now you're controlled? Like, was that in episode 3 that I missed because I was fast forwarding through some of it? I don't want to just
no, I don't think it was clear at all. So
this PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah,
I'll say this. I will say this. If there's any more of these old stories that are missing, I do not want to do them. I don't want to do another slideshow.
Okay, well, we'll have to check the ones that we have listed for the next stories, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, we have
too bad.
Fans of the show that are listening. If you know of any that are on our list, please let us know. Because I don't want to do that. Right?
Yeah. Well, hey, speaking of fans of the show,
we've Wheel in Space, The Invasion, Seeds of Death, and War Games are all the remaining Troughton ones. So if any of those are missing, just hit us up.
Yeah.
And it will remove them.
We'll just delete them from our memory.
Unless they're animated. Like, if they did an animated, and I know they do that to some of them, I would prefer that.
Boy, did I hate
prefer that to this blurry slideshow.
I don't know, man. The slideshow was fine for me. You played at 1.5 speed and put the subtitles on. You just fly through it. It's fine. The animation for a multi-part with that animation, I was not a fan. So I don't know which I'd prefer.
You had Power of the Daleks?
Yeah, Power of the Daleks animation was something. Anyway, speaking of our fans and telling us if we're going to be running into another one of these slideshows, we did get a little bit of feedback about this story, so thank you guys for replying to the tweets about it, because I think we covered everything in this story that we really need to. So Phil B says that the Yeti are the cuddliest aliens of all. I don't know why they need to be big, giant, hairy robots, but I appreciated it. I thought they were really cool looking.
Yeah, I thought they were cool looking.
I love their face,
and
with the big eyes.
I had read in the Abominable Snowmen that they were too cuddly and cute, and so they revamped them for this, where like the eyes glow, and maybe they didn't glow the first time to make them scarier. And even in like the promotions of this show, they were like, "You've never seen these. This is not your daddy's Yeti." And then they had like this is the hardcore gritty. This is the
gritty reboot
cut of the Yetis.
Well, you're right. They make a mention of it that there's like the Yeti Mark II, but they still seem pretty snuggly to me, and I kind of like them anyway. Hair of the Hound says he watched the two halves of this as a film. If you watch as two movies back to back, it'd be a great choice for Halloween. And it was. I mean, the mood setting, with all this as we talked about, it was very, very Halloweeny. So
yeah,
I like
it was a good monster movie.
And lastly, the World Enough in Time podcast says, inextricably linked to the Target novelization for me, wonderfully moody and atmospheric, great sets and supporting characters. I'm a sucker for all the moving the Yeti around via the chessboard business. All this and Lethbridge Stewart as well, classic Troughton Who. 100% agree with all of that. I like the characters, liked the tight claustrophobic sets, the mood, and you got the Brig, or soon to be the Brig. And I just like Troughton so much more. Every time we come back to him, I realize he might be one of my favorite doctors. I really enjoy.
He's
what
great
he does.
too, and also Brigadier.
Yeah,
is so good. Like he's instantly him.
Yeah,
you know, it's like sometimes it takes like a character a little bit to work up to what they end up being. But I feel like from the moment. Well, in episode 4, it's hard to give him. It just sucks that episode 3's missing, and that's his first one. But it's like he's him. He's him.
Yeah,
it's just like such a testament to how good of an actor he is.
It is interesting that he does start with this character, and it is always this character the whole way through. Although the character does grow. He has this different relationships with different doctors, as you see later, which is also really great for a long running character like the Brig. But yeah, he does very much start.
Yeah. Hats off to Nicholas Courtney.
We also have Jixter saying, can I just say the first episode to feature the legendary Lethbridge Stewart, and it all came about because Matt Smith left his lunchbox behind, allegedly. Do you know what that's sort of reference to?
I don't know. Is that something to do with a New Who where they reveal... Yeah, didn't they show something with the Brigadier in the new... I remember at one point he's a Cyberman, right? And then he flies away. Remember when you realize it's like, oh, that's the Brigadier, he's a Cyberman, he flies into the sky? I did not make that up. You know more about New Who than I do. But there's one episode, I don't even know if it may not be a Matt Smith one, it may be... I can't think of the doctor after
I can't recall the Brig turning into a Cyberman and flying away, though. I don't know. I mean, maybe it happened, but I don't remember that.
Is a Cyberman, and he flies away. And it was after his death, obviously, so they don't have the actor, but it's supposed to be implied that it is the Brigadier. And I think someone salutes him.
If you can find that for me, I would love it.
And a tear, yeah. But to his point about the missing lunchbox, I'm assuming there's something with that. I don't know what it is. I don't know anything about
Please
doctors.
fill us in, because we're being a couple idiots here, and I don't get it. But anyway, so there's that. If you guys want to get in touch with us, please reach out to us on Twitter at TODW Show on Twitter. Same on Facebook, TODWS on... No, TODWS on Facebook, TODW Show on Instagram as well, where we'll post the gifts. I don't think we got any emails this week at all, but
self-addressed stamped envelope for stickers go to P.O. Box 2131, Red Bank, New Jersey, 07701. If you've gotten your sticker in the mail, I hope it arrived okay.
And we'd love to see a
we
picture
got
of your
more,
sticker.
so send in your stuff.
If you want to email us as well, you can send that to theolddoctorwhoshow@gmail.com. You can also visit our site, theolddoctorwhoshow.com. You can visit the episode pages where we have all of the gifts, not just the ones that we put on Twitter and Instagram, but all of them from each of the stories. You can leave comments on either the individual story pages for other people to see later, or you can leave us comments on the schedule page. If there's anything in there that you think we should definitely pay attention to, or if there's any ones that we have coming up that have missing pieces in them, you can warn us there and let us know. That would be awesome.
Yeah, well, I can let you know something else. We got an iTunes review.
Wait, what?
Yeah, man.
Do
From
it.
October 17th.
Oh, my goodness.
Jesus.
Lay it on me. What did it say?
It's called The One to Listen To. 5 stars.
5-star review.
This comes from IJL Thankful. And I'm thankful for your review, IJL. How long would it take an infinite number of monkeys to write a positive review of this podcast? So we got a nice review, 5-star review from an infinite number of monkeys. So wherever you are typing away in your little rooms, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by how well it the review reads. Thanks guys for keeping it going. Yeah, well, Thank you again, IJL, all of you.
And Eric, thank you for keeping it going, because sometimes when we have to sit through stories that are slideshows, it's not the easiest thing in the world. So
if you want to be like IJL, you can leave a review, and we will read it on air.
We will do that. What are we doing?
What just happened?
What are we doing for the next story there? Eric?
Next story. So after we've just done Troughton, next up is
we got a Pertwee.
Pertwee, yeah. So we're doing the Damons.
The Damons.
The Damons is next on 11/27, the day after my birthday. So, throwing that out there. My birthday's coming up. If you want
just
to,
in case,
wear a hat.
You know what Eric wants for his birthday? He wants 5-star iTunes reviews for his birthday in the appropriate online iTunes store of your choice.
Now, I don't know anything really about the story of the Damons, but I did see one still that gets me very excited. It almost looks like a Clash of the Titans type thing. So I don't know if it's like that or not, but it looked like some kind of Damon with horns and everything. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to making Matt Damon jokes the entire time, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you should know.
It's going to be great.
Not Matt Damon.
You should?
Wait, what?
Damon Albarn?
What is Damon Albarn?
Damon Albarn is the lead singer of the Blur. No?
But what does that have to do with Matt Damon?
It's the Damons.
Oh, okay. It took me way too long to figure out. I was like,
this is what everyone has to look forward to.
I gotta cut
3
this out.
Weeks.
My brain just shut down. I'm like, what? The Damons? The Matt Damons. I don't understand what Matt Damon has to do with Doctor Who. Mostly because my brain is still. I'm thinking you're talking about how we don't understand what the lunchbox has to do with Matt Smith, and I'm like, why is he saying Matt Damon? When
the Matt Smith Damons.
Matt Smith. But you're not talking about what I'm thinking about at all.
Nope. But we did it.
It's fine.
We nailed it. Everything's great.
We got it. Everything's good. I was not recording, so thank God. No, I was. All right, so that should be it. So we should say goodnight. Not
good
like
night.
last time.
Good night, everybody.
Right, peace.
Do we quit?
Well, look. See, there's an abominable snowman in the supermarket. And apparently the housewives have never seen anything like that before. Here the housewives complaining to the manager. Get that snow thing out of this store. Abominable snowman in the market. That's right, you heard me right, Kay. And the housewives, they all remark it. Looks like a dirty marshmallow with fangs. Well, there's a vulnerable snowman in the market. Now he's down by the peas and carrot. A vulnerable snowman in the market, and they cannot chase him away. What you say? Vulnerable snowman in the market, alright. Oh, vulnerable snowman in the market, oh my. Oh, see, there's a vulnerable snowman in the market, and the situation is great. Well, the housewives heard it confuse him, and I can't stand to see him treated this way. Well, there's a vulnerable snowman in the market, and I think he's a real nice guy. I like the snowman, I want to help him out, I don't want to see him hurt this way. Well, vulnerable snowman in the market, alright. Oh, well, there's a vulnerable snowman in the market. Oh, look, we have to talk to this vulnerable snowman man. And we have to say something that he can understand. That's right.